Visual Design Elements, Part 2. This is Dr. Catherine Fulford at the University of Hawaii. Rhythm. This is a repetition of elements to give uniformity to display. Here's an example. You can repeat the background over several slides or an entire slideshow. You can match the colors that you have in your logos to your design. Use the same title style and keep the fonts the same to create rhythm. In this case, we created splash screens for transitions between each concept. We also made sure to match the colors with our background in the slides. We used the same photo style and repeated a banner for every concept. Finding images can be challenging, and copyright infringement is serious business. So where do you find images? Here's a good place to start. Purchase with software. You can purchase libraries or subscriptions, or even better, you can make your own. But beware of things like Google Images. You need to check on the copyright. You can also search for copyright-free or royalty-free images or photos. Animation. You can animate your graphics and add sound. You can use it to enhance your design. You can use it to gain attention. You can use it to lead your eye. But avoid distracting movement and avoid overstimulating and distracting your audience. For slideshow animations, choose specific rather than random movements. Use builds and dim to control your focus. A build is when you animate between each of your lines. A dim is when you choose to have it change color so that you can see the difference between the one that you're talking about and the previous items. You can also get 2 slides for one graphic. You do this by creating a list that continues from one page to the next. Choose automatic timing to reduce the number of your mouse clicks. Movement and line. Make your visual dynamic. Use it to enhance your design. Use it to lead the eye. Use leading lines that draw your eyes into the image, but avoid those that are distracting. Space is important. Try to leave 20% white space. Use shorter paragraphs to do this, or avoid heavy lines. Did you know that the least read space is the bottom left? So avoid putting important information here. It's often where they put the cancer warning in cigarette ads. But the most read is the bottom right. You can use this for important information or for coupons to clip. Layout. Use a 2/3, 1/3 format with a header picture column for an interesting layout. Or use 2 columns. Try inventive layouts. You can do this best with table formatting, but avoid crammed margins. Reformat your image to fit your layout. Avoid layout holds. Use image borders and create text layout to flow around images. A great way to create a dynamic layout is to use the rule of thirds. Imagine a grid across your page. Then find the intersecting points. Choose one of these points to place your main subject. You can see how dynamic it is. Remember that projected media is different from text, and you have different rules. And those rules have to do with legibility, how well you can see something, versus readability, your ease of reading. Serif fonts have thin lines and feet, whereas sans serif fonts have even lines and no feet. Using fonts properly can help us with legibility and readability. For example, serif fonts may be easier to read in text, whereas sans serif fonts may be more legible in projected media. Serif fonts are ones like Palatino, Times, and Courier. Sans serif fonts are ones like Geneva, Arial, and Helvetica. Font size is also critical. Down below you see tiny little 12-point font, and it's very difficult to read, especially if it's projected. Font size is critical. Essentially, the larger the room, the larger the font. Generally, use sans serif for projected visuals and video. Use larger fonts for both. Change your preferences when projecting with web browsers. Remember, the larger the room, the bigger the font. All caps are difficult to read, and that's because we're used to seeing things that have capital letters have particular meanings, like proper names. You can use small caps instead. It's decorative and yet serves the same purpose. Some decorative fonts can be hard to see from a distance. Avoid them if possible. Instead, use drop caps for decoration. Readability. Avoid centering large blocks of text. Avoid full justification and use a ragged right margin. Use bullet points for projected media, but don't use them often for long blocks of text. Use the same verb tense to begin your sentences. Avoid using slashes or parentheses. Also avoid leaving out small words like a, the, or it. Use serif fonts for blocks of printed text. Use 7 to 10 words per line for the best readability. That's because if your eyes have to travel too far across the page, they have to return an equal distance. Use 12 points at least for adult learners. Use 14 points for children or people with special needs, such as older adults who might need help with reading. Add extra line spacing between bullet points and avoid very short lines. There, this is better. Motivation. Design for learners. Think accessibility. Be culturally appropriate. Use relevant images. Use color cues. But avoid visual clutter. Use consistent formatting and avoid too many lists. Use pictures and designs, but make sure that you have proper permission and provide citations. Use interesting title fonts. Avoid more than 3 fonts, though. Use compressed fonts. These are ones that use a different amount of space for the O versus letters like I. Use two-sided copying. Both using compressed fonts and two-sided copying will help you save space and make the learners think that what you are giving them is shorter. Use an interesting cover. Try to use creative packaging. Lay things out so it's half page, landscaped, or even top-bound. Use a story, game, example, or analogy to make it exciting. Remember primacy, the first thing you say is important, as well as the last thing you say is important. That's recency. Remember that good design is invisible. It'll increase motivation, decrease anxiety, increase study time, and students will learn more. For you, it will increase their level of trust in you. It will increase their perceptions of your knowledge. It will increase your image of professionalism and increase your own confidence.